April 11th, 2019 meeting of the Alarm Systems Contractors Board. We want to welcome all of our visitors and guests here today. Ms. Vest, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Scott Cockcroft.
Here.
Doug Fraker. Keith Harvey.
Here.
Vivian Hickson.
Here.
Lou Richard.
Here.
Let the record show you do have a quorum, but Doug Fraker is not present.
Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is to review and adopt the agendas presented for today's meeting and a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Cockcroft to adopt our agenda for today. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next are the minutes from the February the 21st, 2019 board meeting. Have members had an opportunity to review, and if so, a motion to approve those?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 21st meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Richard to approve those minutes as presented. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. Mr. Huffman, the legal report.
Good morning. Number one is 2018-087-621. Complainant alleges he contacted respondent about a promotion for a one-year introductory rate. Complainant alleges that the installer asked for a landline and complainant explained that he did not have a landline. Complainant had to cut back on expenses after his wife passed, and complainant was no longer receiving her Social Security. Complainant alleges that the installer finished the job and explained that complainant would be billed $49 per month and not the introductory rate because complainant did not have a landline as required. Complainant believes the installation should not have been completed once it was determined that complainant did not qualify for the introductory rate. Respondent states that complainant initially contracted with an authorized dealer. Respondent reached out to his dealer for a response. The authorized dealer spoke with the complainant and applied a credit to complainant's account. Complainant has confirmed that the credit has resolved all issues and this complaint be withdrawn. Recommendation is to close.
Make a motion to concur with council. That's mostly a civil matter anyway.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Cockcroft to concur with her council's recommendation. All in favor, voice by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries.
Number two, 2019-011-081. Complainant was the victim of a robbery while out of town. The system's motion detectors failed to notify the monitoring company. Complainant is demanding the security company pay for the value of the items stolen. Complainant did not have renter's insurance. Complainant inquired about respondent's theft protection guarantee, which pays complainant $500 of the insurance deductible if the customer experiences a covered loss while the system was actively armed. Unfortunately, the customer must have renter's insurance also. Respondent has offered a courtesy discount for additional equipment in order to enhance her alarm system, and complainant has accepted this offer in full satisfaction of this complaint. Recommendation is to close.
Make a motion to concur with the recommendations of council and close.
We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Harvey to concur with our council's recommendation. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Number three, 2019-011-211. Complainant asked for services to be terminated when in the process of moving. Complainant asserts he overpaid by $391 and that respondent continues to harass for payment on the old account. Respondent explains that complainant terminated the contract a year in advance and that the contract states that respondent will charge 75% of the remaining balance as the early termination fee. This fee was $430.50. Respondent further explains that complainant is using the wrong timeline of the termination, which is causing the discrepancy in remaining balances. Respondent has decided that as a goodwill gesture, the balance will be waived with no further liability on complainant. Complainant will also be placed on the do not call list. Recommendation is to close.
Motion to concur with council.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Richard to concur with council. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Number 4, 2019-016-341. Complainant's elderly father was approached by the respondent to upgrade his system. Complainant states that her father did not understand what was going on and was set up on $58 monthly payments through a loan account in the amount of $4,899. Respondent states that even though they have a signed contract and a recorded QA call, due to the age of the customer and POA documents provided by the daughter, the contract will be voided and any monies refunded. Recommendation is to close.
Motion to concur with council's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Harvey, a second by Mr. Richard to concur with our council's recommendation. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Number 5, 2019-010151. Complainant alleges unlicensed activity of a respondent. Respondent has previously installed 17 cameras and 1 NVR in a county government building. Subsequent installations are scheduled with respondent in other government buildings. Respondent does not appear to be licensed in Tennessee and has not responded to this complaint. Recommendation is to authorize formal hearing and civil penalty of $1,000 for violation of Tennessee Code annotated 62-32-304, unlicensed activity.
You done an investigation on it?
There's been no investigation, but it's apparent that there is activity.
They hadn't responded, and in theory, it would be ongoing. They would be doing other installations.
There are other installations that are scheduled, and of course, they have not responded.
I believe that minimum is $1,000. Yeah.
Have y'all notified these other government entities that you know are scheduled to use this company and alerted them that this person's not licensed in Tennessee, or company isn't?
We can alert them. It's the same county.
So it'd just be a matter of one letter or one phone call versus numerous ones?
Right. It would be one letter to. It's all the same county that's using this respondent.
State, not federal, correct?
Yes.
Any more questions?
I make a motion to concur with recommendations of council to authorize a formal hearing and civil penalty of $1,000.
We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Harvey to concur with our council's recommendation in this matter. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Number 6 is a represent 2018-052-051. Excuse me. Complainant alleges that they were called to assist in installing a maglock and IEI keypad on a door at a business. Upon arrival, complainant asked the person who was there, who was paying for the work, and an employee of the business responded and stated that the IT company was supposed to be doing the job and that they had already installed the cameras and the security system at the business. Complainant then looked up the business name that the employee gave them and discovered that they were not licensed. Complainant billed the respondent for the 2 hours that they had technicians at the site. Complainant alleges that respondent refuses to pay the bill and argued about licensure. Respondent has not responded to the complaint. The first recommendation was to authorize a formal and send a consent order with a civil penalty in the amount of $1,000 for engaging in unlicensed activity in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 62-32-304A. Board decision at the time was concur. The new information is legal is unable to locate respondent in order to serve any correspondence. All mailings have been returned as undeliverable. The new recommendation is to close.
Stuart, explain what the close status would mean for everybody. If this company was to resurface again, this penalty or this recommendation is still in effect, but you're just asking us to close the case, or are you asking us to void our previous decision?
This would void the previous decision and close the case. So the only time that we could actually go after the company if it's another complaint comes in, and then we, of course, would recommend some type of civil penalty. The problem with this is that we can't locate the respondent. We have to
Can't
have...
find any information on the company, I mean, as far as...
Well, the company is the individual. It's a DBA. So we've looked at all of our resources, and everything comes back as undeliverable. So we're continuing to look for them, but at this point, we can't find them. We can't get service.
What would be the advantage of closing this and not just like suspending it in case this person resurfaces?
I don't know if we can actually suspend it.
I mean, that's just the term I use.
Right. I mean,
Put it in an inactive file or whatever versus closing it, because you're basically saying we're going to reverse our previous decision when there's not grounds to do that, other than the fact y'all can't find them.
the only thing I can suggest is that we put it into a monitoring status. At that point, then it remains open, and then we can continue to look for this person. But I would say that if we cannot find this person by the next board meeting, then we may need to...
Have we tried to contact the location where the system was installed? I mean, didn't they contact him? I mean, do they have any contact information for him, or is this...
It's the same contact information that was given to us.
that the people are not being cooperative with where the installation was done? Or they didn't tell you?
Well, everything's fine with the installation and where it happened. It's just that the complainant was supposed to actually install that, and then this other person installed it and they weren't licensed. And the complainant is licensed.
I guess what I'm asking, though, is if we know where the system was installed and we know those people, and surely they know who installed their system that wasn't licensed. Because it sounds like there was a lot of work done besides what the complainant came to do. He just came to install one small piece of a whole large system, and they had installed the rest of the system. I would think they would be able to contact him or would know, how to get in touch with him.
The information that we received from the complainant is the information they received from the place that it was installed. So all the information that we have on this respondent is what the area that it was installed, the place that it was installed knows as the contact information, and the complainant knows as the contact information.
Haven't y'all flagged people or companies or individuals in the past, or can you no longer do that?
Yes, we do have the ability to flag, but you have to have a license and be on the system. They're not on the system. I have nothing to flag, no way to track it.
Very concerning that someone can do unlicensed activity, and if we can't find them, we're just going to say, oh, well, we're not going to do anything. It just concerns me that there's not any way to find them. I mean, we do know the actual place the work was installed. We know it's not just they reported someplace. They reported, we know an address, a name of a business. And
Yes.
Have we tried to contact them to say, how do you contact this person?
I don't believe we've contacted the place that has been installed. We just know that the complainant was there to install their part, and then they got the information from the actual respondent, which knew, the place that was installed was the same information.
They might be unwilling to cooperate, but it would be worth reaching out to the customer that, had the unlicensed work done. Not that there's anything wrong against them, but to protect them from the standpoint that they've had someone doing unlicensed work. You'd think they'd want to help us find who that person was.
Yeah, because who's servicing it? Or do they have monitoring? I mean, I think Scott has a good idea to reach out to the location where the cameras and security system were installed.
We've been successful in the past in that. There was the case where there was video monitoring, and an auto dealership actually helped us provide information, provided copies of contracts, so that we, could pursue the person doing unlicensed work. They may not help us, and I don't know what power we have to subpoena them or anything else. May have none, but it seems like it would be worth an effort.
We'll be happy to keep this open and continue to look for this person.
You need a motion on that, or you want us to just?
Yeah, we'll need a motion to not concur.
Keep it open.
I make a motion to keep it open, to not concur with recommendations of council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Richard to leave this matter open pending further investigation. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes the legal report.
Thank you. Ms. Vest.
Yes, next thing on the agenda is appearances, but I'm going to make a change on the agenda. We're just going to swap Exhibit A for Exhibit B. So we're going to ask that this gentleman come up, Mr. Kendrick. Joshua Kendrick. Yes.
Madam Chair, because of my affiliation with the ADS company, I'm going to have to recuse myself from this hearing.
Got that in the record. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself to the board.
I'm Joshua Kendrick.
Okay.
I'm Chris Owens, QA
Okay.
for ADS Crew Nashville.
Okay.
I'm going to go over a couple of these things. First of all, I got the record from the TBI and the FBI, and then Mr. Kendrick did supply us some information. Some of it I was not able to match up. Excuse me. 6403, we got contributing to a minor, possession of underage drinking and paraphernalia. 42204, 504, violation of probation. 2908, possession of schedule, I think that's 4 and 5, guilty. 6409, DUI, possession with the firearm, guilty on both. 62609, violation of probation, guilty. 103009, violation of probation, guilty. 8610, possession with the tent, paraphernalia, and guilty. There are others on that record, but they were either dismissed or nullied. I don't have all the documents to go with them. Excuse me. But I will give, if he didn't bring it, I'll give Mr. Kendrick the copy that I have, so when they ask you questions, you can answer it. Excuse me. Here's a pen if you.
Mr. Kendrick, you were quite busy for about 10 years in your life, but that was about 10 years ago. Tell the board what changed in 2012 and why we should approve your request for employee registration. Speak into the mic, please.
Have to hold it down where it says speak.
In 2011, my daughter was born, and of course, during the time of all the charges, I was young and had my priorities in the wrong pattern. And once my daughter was born, it set me on the right path. It woke me up and made me grow up, and made me realize that I need to do better for her, and it helped me to get my priorities straight and focus on what's important.
So what did you do to change? Did you take training classes or change friends? Tell us what happened besides, because I show an arrest in 2012 after your daughter was born.
Yes, ma'am. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past. When I was young, I dealt with depression, anxiety, and I handled it the wrong way. Did a lot of self-medicating, which was the wrong way to handle it. I went to rehab for alcoholism and completed rehab.
What's that?
That was in 2010. In 2012, I believe what happened was I was at the park, and it was after park hours, and a police officer had pulled up and he wanted to search my car, and I think he found like a couple marijuana cigarette roaches that were under the vehicle, under the driver's seat, and I guess they'd been there for a while, but he charged me for it, so that was the...
So you're telling us that you weren't currently smoking or using marijuana at the time those roaches were found? Go ahead.
Oh, I said no, ma'am.
No, I understand, but go ahead with what you were saying. What have you been doing since 2012?
As far as work, or
Work, education?
when I went to Nashville State, I started in 2010 and graduated in 2013 with an associate's degree in electrical engineering technology and certification in industrial electrical maintenance. And I've been trying to grow in my career. I've done a lot of electrical work in the past, and I got the opportunity to work for ADS. I thought it was a good opportunity, and I feel like I'm a good fit there, and I enjoy my work. And
How long have you been working there?
I started through Insight Global, which is a temporary staffing company, in April of last year.
Any questions?
One of the charge says that it's for that last one that you're talking about. Would it not have been a large amount if they're saying manufacture, delivery, or to sell? Are you saying it was just?
Mr. Cockcroft, of course, that is a misdemeanor. That was yes, sir.
I think it
Good,
just,
not much.
that covers all. It could be
Okay.
any or all. But your statement is there were only 2 old roaches under the seat of your car.
Yes, ma'am, to the best of my recollection. It's been a while. I've kind of tried to forget about the past and move on. So, I'm trying to pull this all up from memory. So,
Sir, are you full-time with the company now?
He is full-time.
Because you started as a through the temporary service, so now you're full-time?
Yes.
I was going to bring you up next, Mr. Owens. No, that's okay. I was going to ask you, have you had any problems with him? Do you routinely drug screen your employees?
We do random drug screening when we feel it's necessary.
Okay.
So far, I haven't felt it's necessary with Josh. I'm not opposed to doing something on the schedule if you want me to. To be upfront with you, when I saw this, I was shocked because the man standing for me today is not this man. I didn't.
That's why we wanted the
Yeah.
opportunity to let him explain what has changed in his life in the last 10 years, that he's no longer the person that was committing these criminal acts from 18 or whatever years ago. And, he's made a good case. He's gone to school. He's gotten an associate's degree. He's been working with you now for a year without any problems.
None. Other employees like him, his coworkers like him, customers say good things about him. No customer complaints. We track customer complaints. I see every one. I haven't had one on Josh. As a matter of fact, I review, as part of my job, I review service tickets to make sure they make sense. When I review Josh's, it's the things I would do. He has logical troubleshooting. He's good with people. Well in the community for us and for the industry, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Owens?
When did you hire Mr. Kendrick? I know you hired him through a temporary service. Is he an employee now?
He's an employee now, and I'm going to ask Josh that question because, to be upfront with you, I forgot. Apologize, I should have looked it up.
I believe I got hired on full-time in October of 2018. I'm not sure of the exact date, but
That's my fault. I should have looked it up. I should have anticipated the
No,
question.
that's okay. So he was temporary for about 6 months, and then you converted him over to a company
Right,
employee.
that's our contract, and we use those folks is 6 months.
Isn't against Josh, but just curious, do you not get them licensed when they're with the temp company?
So, yes, sir, and I don't know what happened in this case. He should have been licensed through us, and I need to research, see what happened, because it didn't happen, and I have no excuse other than to say we do that as a rule, and I go through my folks and HR does to look for inconsistencies, and I don't know why it didn't happen. I have no excuse.
And this isn't at all against you, but you probably should have been licensed when you first started, because we would look at a temp agency the same as a full-time employee.
That's our rule. I'm not sure where it fell apart. I've been investigating that recently.
I actually was licensed, I believe, in 2003. I worked for International Equipment Company. They're no longer, the national branch is closed, but I was licensed then, and we actually, when we were looking into the licensing process, we saw that license had actually expired in June of 2018.
I think so. It may have been somebody else. I think Ms. Vest said that may have been somebody else with this.
I was going to say that license wouldn't remain active that many years without renewal, so.
That was I looked and the name was exactly the same, and I made a mistake saying it was still open.
Do you hire a lot of people through temporary agencies?
It varies. We have in the past. I don't know if you guys are in national market. It's slim. But we have in the past. We're currently not doing that. We've got an influx of people wanting to come work for us that are currently in the industry. So the last, I would say, when guys come in, they're already licensed, I can just transfer license over, or people that are being employees. For several years, we had a real dry spell, and we went to
You're going to assure the board that you're going to go back and make sure that there are no more unlicensed employees.
I can assure you today that we do that on a monthly basis through HR. And waiting a while, so I'm going to see what's going on with him.
Take a motion to approve Mr. Kendrick's registered employee application.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Richard to approve Mr. Kendrick's registered employee application. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. And
Please don't
keep
let us
on.
down. We've had that happen before. You've got an opportunity, so don't waste it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. You be here, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Thank you, ma'am.
Me? I think it doesn't like
Does it do any better with
our
it?
hands.
I'd like to take a break, but if you don't mind, but I did our board. In your contracts, it talks, does it tell the individual that they have to, or do you add? What difference does renter's insurance make when I have an alarm system?
Well, that's with a particular company. There are some companies that guarantee, they have a guarantee that, if they have a loss, they'll pay their deductible.
That's what happened in this case.
Which, I mean, and they purposely, I'm assuming that they purposely, have stuff in place because they know that the insurance company is going to go verify and see it was a true loss and everything else. So they're kind of relying on the insurance company to be their, I guess, their inspector. So if the insurance...
What if I don't have renters insurance? I mean, do you ask this in your contract?
I don't, as far as my company, but we also don't provide that guarantee. We make it pretty clear we're not an insurance company, and that we're providing a service, and that it's not infallible, it's not perfect. Also, the system could work 100% like it's supposed to, and you could still have a loss because the police may not get there in time. The person may get something and run. Some companies make a guarantee. They do put a lot of stipulations in it that they will pay your deductible. It doesn't even have to be renter's insurance. It could be, normally it's homeowner's insurance. But that particular case, and that really does get back to a civil matter because it's a promise in a contract or a guarantee. But there's only a few companies that make that. But
As a consumer, maybe I need to talk about this later, but as a consumer, what is the responsibility of the alarm company then? Why am I getting an alarm if I don't hold you responsible?
Well, what we don't know, that if you're talking about the case we heard earlier,
No, I'm just in
there's
general.
a lot of information we didn't hear in that. They said it didn't work, but we don't know we don't know, was the system actually armed? Was their phone line working? Did they have cellular service? Was the motion detector in a room that they didn't break into? Had they put up curtains and covered up the motion detector? There's a lot of things we don't know that's out of the control of the alarm company and us at this point. But it's very clear, and that's what almost every alarm company has. And I don't think any licensed company could get in. I mean, they've got to have insurance to be licensed, and I don't think you could get insurance without having a contract that has a limitation of liability. There's nothing to prevent that customer from suing the alarm company if they feel they've been wronged, but most likely the alarm company has outlined in their agreement what their responsibilities are. And if that guarantee to pay their deductible was in there, I'm sure there's a lot of stipulation to that of what all has to be met for that.
So that would be an actual contract.
I think the typical
Yes.
contract states that the alarm company will only be responsible for $200 to $500 worth of loss if they were sued.
Or sometimes it'll be a multiple of how much the monthly is. If someone pays a larger monthly, it could be more than that. Might be 6 times what they pay if someone's paying $100 a month. But alarm companies aren't insurance companies. I mean, we charge the same if we are securing your home or if we're securing a bank. It's the same. We're not placing a value on what's in the building. Like an insurance company charges you a rate based on what they're insuring, but an alarm company doesn't do that.
I've been doing this with this board a while, and that was the first time I had heard that renter's insurance. And different terminal, I just didn't realize. I put an alarm system in my house. I'm depending on that alarm to go off. I'm just going, but what doesn't go off, and I get robbed. What? I could buy me a dog.
I think
versus an alarm system.
This is just personal speaking. If an alarm company told me that I had to show proof of insurance, okay, who's next? I don't think you're not mandated to go with that particular company if you don't like the terms of their contract. And
Well, that's what part I'm trying to get to, because we're going to talk about this later on with contracts. Like I said, I'd never heard that terminology. I know what renter's
haven't
insurance
either.
is, obviously.
Also, their guarantee to pay your deductible is not the norm. So they've put forth some stipulations, and they didn't ask whether or not they didn't require them to have insurance. It's just a stipulation. If you want to, it's just like, say you go to the store and you want this special. If you've got to buy this item and that item or whatever. They've put stipulations on this special that they're doing that they'll pay your deductible. They're even suggesting with that you should have insurance because you shouldn't just rely on the alarm because the alarm is only there to detect and to deter. It can't prevent. So there's most. I mean, you could have just even if the alarm works, say they smash the door in, you've had a loss with the door. I mean, you've had, if everything works fine, they catch the burglar, but you've still had a loss. You should have insurance for your losses to fix the broken door, we're not an insurance company.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure a lot of people watch this, and I had never heard, I know what renter's insurance is, we all do, but I had never heard that in conjunction with the complaint. And the way it sounded like the consumer was relying on the alarm company versus their insurance company. But the alarm company was generous enough to pay the deductible and satisfied the consumer. That's good.
Right. In normal circumstances, someone would have homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance, and they made that promise they would pay their deductible. But this particular person, I guess they were relying on that promise, but they didn't have insurance, so they didn't have a deductible.
Take a break.
If you don't mind, please.
Okay. We'll take 15 minutes then. Ms. Vest, I think exhibit or appearance A is here.
Yes, Roy Pollock. If you remember from the last meeting, we had he brought up some questions about a rule. I did pass out information that Mr. Pollock brought to us about this rule that he wanted to talk about. There just wasn't really enough time at the last meeting, so he was kind enough to come back today to just discuss this bit.
Thank you.
Ms. Vest, before Mr. Pollock gets going, I just want to let the board know that Roy and I are associates. We do work for the same company, so just for matter of record.
So, since this is just a discussion, I don't see any need for you to recuse yourself.
Right.
If we had to vote on something, I would expect you to recuse yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, as you remember, I was here last time and spoke about the owner's language that was in the statute or the rule regarding explaining the contract. And during that discussion, several board members made different comments about what should be disclosed to the customer. And so I took most of that language or those comments and put it into language on this rule with another line that simply says that the alarm company is responsible for telling the customer that they should seek legal advice. And it's not going to be our responsibility to try and explain, as Mr. Cockcroft mentioned, the limitation of liability clause or any of the other clauses that are in the contract, since we're not lawyers and the contracts were drawn up by lawyers. As Ms. Vest had said earlier during her comments on the renter's insurance, if a technician is saying something to a customer, it could be very misleading, it could actually be incorrect, and they're going to rely on those comments as what they will then bring to this board as saying the alarm company deceived me in the language of my agreement. So I think this clarifies what the board said last time, the couple of items that you think should actually be disclosed early on prior to maybe even signing the contract. And if there's any questions on the more intricate language, to seek legal advice. And I guess the only question is, did that 90-day moratorium expire, Ms. Vest?
If you're referring to the government's regulatory freeze, no, it's still in effect.
Have your recommendations, but there's nothing we can do at this time.
I would wonder what the board would do if council brought a complaint against an alarm company that said they didn't explain every paragraph in the agreement to me under the current rule.
We probably won't know until that were to happen. We can make a lot of guesses at this point, but without having all the facts for one of those cases, I feel like we would be fair and, make the right decision. But obviously, you may not feel that way. But I I don't know what we can do at this point. I feel like our hands are somewhat tied. I don't disagree with you, but
Well, I would only ask that this be kept as something in the back of your mind for when that rulemaking opportunity does arise again, to revisit it and to possibly change the language in the rule that doesn't make it as restrictive on the alarm company. And something that I don't think any alarm company, including the members of the board, could really comply with. Having a technician that, is a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, 40-year-old, doesn't really matter. Explain the legal ramifications of the terms in an agreement satisfactorily.
Who does explain those to your customers?
We tell them to seek legal advice, have their attorneys
Who is
look at it.
we?
Alarm companies in general do.
No, Mr. Pollock. Who in your company explains the terms of the contract to customers?
Again, I'm not here on behalf, I'm here as a license holder and as an educator. I can't speak on behalf of my company. I'm not authorized to do so. So I can't do that.
And if I can just address the board, I do see where Mr. Pollock is coming from. I think as he brought it for discussion, that's fine. I do just want to remind the board that your charge is to protect the public. And so if the board feels the rules are protecting the public rather than making a requirement easier for an alarm system contractor, I just want you all to remember that when thinking about discussing changing the rules.
Well, that's my point. This is an industry-wide thing, not a particular company thing. Our hands are frozen right now, so I really don't see that we spend any more time debating it until which time the moratorium is lifted. Thank you.
I don't, as a director, I don't know when that will be. We'll have to get it from the governor's office.
And I'll just say, roughly estimating, I would say May, based on when we received notice of the 90-day. But that's the initial 90 days. That's not to say that a new executive order may not go into place after that. So.
And there's not anything rule-wise that can be changed, if something, this probably does need to be changed, but there's not anything we can do at this point. It's not.
That's why I say our hands are tied
It's not
right now.
a matter of something that.
There's been no evidence that there's a public emergency that needs to be addressed by this rule change, that we need to try to find a way to go around the regulatory freeze. Once that freeze is lifted, if the board sees fit to revisit these rules and think about changing them or editing the language in some way, once that freeze is lifted, we'll go back to our regular process of changing the rule.
Thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is going to be my information. Start off, if we're ready, with the monthly report. These are in the. This time you have January and February. I'm going to go over to February. Go ahead and announce that Keith Harvey has been reappointed. His expiration date is December the 30th. Yes, appreciate that. And the report, I send it out to you. This is where the attorneys meet. We talk about various things. And at the end of this report is something, PSI report. If you'll take a look at it, it's Tennessee Alarm Contractors Board Examination Statistics Summary just to give you an idea of what's happening in the industry. You have 2 individuals take the monitoring portion of the exam. Both of those passed. You had 14 individuals that did the burglar. If that's where I'm reading that properly. Then for the closed circuit TV, you had 9. Fire, you had 6. Now, the only individuals that take this exam, of course, is the qualifying agents. I get this quarterly. If this is information that you would like for me to put into the packet, I'll do that whenever I get the interesting information of how many, you can see there how many people have taken it, how many times they have failed it, finally passed it. It kind of gives you a little history there. It also tells you how many people are in what classifications, like the 14 going to be in the burglar classification. That's information that you're interested in.
That is good information. I've never seen that before, and it's nice to know that we have a high percentage passing, because I've had some people suggest that the test wasn't fair or didn't apply. Of course, I haven't seen the test. How often do they redo the test, or?
We take, this helps us to decide if we need to review the exam questions. We just did you just paid the $30,000 for the new contract. So the same tests are in effect. We didn't see, whenever we sat down and took a look at this, had some other statistics as well. It looks like the exam questions and individuals are passing. We can, if we have a lot of people that do say that they're not able to pass the exam, they find it too hard, or they may say that question wasn't in the book for me to learn, whatever. If we do that, then that's when we would call a special meeting and we would look at the exam. But with PSI, I don't believe any of the board members have ever. Well, Keith may have been. You have been with us the time that we went to the hotel and we broke out into tables, his burg, his fire, his CCD. We got the specialist to come. Yes, we have done that before. But I don't think, now this is entirely up to you, but I don't think that these statistics warrant us to make any change.
The only one on there, CCTV, has a lower rate than the rest, and it's changed a lot in the last few years, and not knowing what's on that test, it may not apply much anymore. It may be outdated information, but it's definitely got a lower percentage. It still has more than half passed. Writers about half. It's 4.
Well, we'll continue to monitor that, and as I get this quarterly, I'll bring it back to the board and we'll look at them.
Okay, thank you.
If that's all right. The next thing on the agenda is your budget. This is where I get to say you got $98,501 as of February. As you look through the budget, hopefully you can see it better on the iPads now. We had some of the coloring changed because even I couldn't read it once I printed it, the numbers. So we did ask that they change the coloring, which I do appreciate that. You see November and December we were in a deficit, but we have pulled out of that deficit now. We have to have enough money to run the program. We don't want to have an excess stockage of fees, of money, I should say. There's no questions on that one. Legislative update, we do not have any legislative update for you today. We do not have any criminal history reviews for you either. All right. We do have a request for an extension. Do you see? item 8 on the iPad. This is a request for an extension to replace the qualifying agent from International Fire Protection Incorporated. They're in the classification of fire only. They had asked for the request. I do grant the first request. The second request comes before the board.
It would typically be for 90 days, or what was your first extension?
They asked in February.
How long is the extension? Is it for 90 days?
I'd have to actually look that up. I thought it was 60 or 90, but I'll have the attorney look that up and be able to give you that answer.
What would be appropriate for us to approve here, a 90-day extension, or?
Well, let's make sure we have the information that you need. Okay, so it's a total of 90 days. It would start 90 days from the date if you approved it today.
I make a motion to grant the extension for 90 days for International Fire Protection.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft, a second by Mr. Harvey to grant this 90-day extension from International Fire Protection. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
All right, that's the only extension that I had. Down now to the, if it's all right, the education report and education review, course review. If a course review, Exhibit A is ESA. They wanted I did receive an email.
You need to go to,
All right, that's a little later in the agenda.
it's under education.
Yes, I apologize. Let's go straight to the courses. I'm sorry. Lou, I believe we sent you a course.
Did?
Linda, Security Monitoring Incorporated, doing business as United Central Control. Development for the independent alarm dealer, 8 hours of continuing education.
So they did request 8 hours. On the actual course outline, they documented 6. So I'm going to go ahead and approve them for 6.
We can stay with you if you'd like. We'll go to Security Solutions Incorporated, TREDNET, TREDNET. Make the right choice. Network switches from IP security applications. They ask for 1 hour continuing education.
Yes, approved. Their CEU form needs to display the course title and the hours earned, the 1 hour, which was not on there. Other than that, approved.
Yes, sir. We have reached out to the company because when I got this information, they did mark continuing education, but for 1 hour, but they didn't tell us in what classification, Berg, fire, CCTV, or monitoring. It wasn't complete. So we have reached out to the company, and we have not had any response. So we Thought this before, I didn't want somebody to be held up for these courses. Is it perhaps continuing education for all four classifications?
Well, I didn't think we were specifying. I thought that we were,
Just
for continuing education, we were accepting it.
for all these for all of them?
That's what we've been doing. We haven't been
Okay.
specifying, I don't believe. We have on the initial application, or initial training, but we haven't on CEUs.
In that case, Lou, how did you feel about the courses?
The courses were good.
All right.
I didn't think that you were tracking the CEUs, though, by category, though, when the renewals.
It's just, the form's not complete.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you'll say, well, Cody, they submitted this and the form's not, so I'm trying to get these forms complete.
Well, do we, though? Do we look at
Do we
the?
care? I can take it off.
No,
and then
I
we
don't
won't
mean
have
about that as far as the applying, but when someone sends in CEUs with their renewal, are we looking at that? Are we looking at the different CEUs for different categories?
I think the answer is no to that.
That's what I thought. So I didn't think it mattered
Okay.
what category it was in.
So you've approved both of these?
Both courses just with that modification to their certificate.
They needed to do what? I'm sorry.
Actually, have the course title on it, which is blank, and the hours earned, which are 1.
All right, we'll continue to reach out to them, and this is what we're going to talk to them about instead of the course title and having the number of hours on the certificate instead of actually filling the form out.
That's mostly for your purposes. That's,
We need to
Right.
know what they're taking.
Okay, so that takes care of number 1 and 3,
And number 3, yes.
who had the ADI Global.
that's the one I had, I believe. And it looked like a comprehensive class. It was about fiber and copper it mostly applied to CCTV, but I didn't think there again that we were doing them for a category, so it would 4 hours of CEUs.
And the last security
No,
solutions.
hold on just a second, Madam Chair. Scott, for this one here,
Doesn't have the, what is, we
he
don't have
doesn't, he didn't supply, we
the person.
hate to hold these people up, and of course, we meet every other month, but there was information that they didn't supply, like resumes or even the certificates.
So if we need to
Hold off
hold it
on
based
this.
on that,
I really don't know, let me ask this question. If they're not completely complete, do you want me to bring them to you?
I don't know that it's necessary for to bring them to us if we don't have everything. The course looked fine to me, and I'm comfortable approving the course. But if we don't have the
We don't
instructor
have the
approved to go
instructor,
with
the
it, it's
resume
kinda
for the instructor,
pointless.
or even a copy of the certificate.
And we can approve it pending them submitting the required paperwork
Yeah,
then.
that'd be good. I don't want to hold up a QA if he needed to take this. That's why we want to look at that. Approval based upon getting the required information. Is that all right?
Yes.
So the last course, Introduction to HDMI.
Same thing with that one. It's approved. It's a good course. But they need to put the title on this.
Company saying the same problem. We wanted, and if that's okay, I'm going to say approved based on getting the required information.
Yes.
If I do not receive the required information by the board meeting, do you want me to bring this back? Or will you,
No, because I don't think it should bringing it back because they've not submitted
I mean,
the
if they-
paperwork.
take it off the list?
Yeah, I mean,
just
if they
wouldn't
can't
be a-
follow simple instructions then, or respond.
Because
Too many people talking.
I'm sorry.
in other words, no, don't bring it back. And if they don't comply with what's required, take them off.
All right.
Okay, we need a motion with the modifications noted for these 4 classes.
Make a motion to approve all 4 classes for continuing education with, one of them was at 6 hours instead of 8, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And all conditionally upon receiving the information that Cody needs as far as instructor information and certificates. Correct, that all you need?
Yes. The number of hours on the course.
The number of hours on the certificate.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft to approve these courses for continuing education with the changes noted in the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Richard. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's approved.
That is all that I had, Madam Chair. No, I'm kind of off kilter today. I want to do it in a certain order, but it wasn't the proper order. All right, so I do have something else. Is that all right? It was the one I tried to give you just a moment ago.
We have a course review from ESA. Is that the one we need to be looking at?
It should be
Number 10,
no.
I think.
Well, there's 10 and 11. There's Exhibit A and Exhibit B on the course review.
If it's all right with you, I'll read this into the record so we'll know what electronics is asking or stating. It says, "Hi, Cody. Hope you're doing well. For what it's worth, I wanted to make you aware of some information I learned recently by a training provider, the Training Academy, that the Tennessee Alarm Contractors Board approved on 2/21 of 19 to conduct employee initial training, equivalent to the ESA Level 1 and CEUs. This company is working on getting approved in many states, so I have done research to see who owns the company. It turns out the stakeholders are 3 Vivint employees, Vivint, Vivint employees, who lead their licensing and compliance division. See below for more information on these employees. She's also attached the entity school license from Texas. She watched the board meeting. I watched the board meeting and did not see or hear that the board was aware that this appears to be a Vivint endeavor, so I'm not sure if this was disclosed to the Tennessee Alarm Contractors Board. I would hope if you have, because of the potential conflict of interest if they are training their own employees. I believe that the board permits this, but I thought it needed to be disclosed." I stopped and started, so I do apologize for that. The association is contacting us to tell us who owns that. You approved those courses.
Did they disclose to you that they were?
Is that a requirement? Oh, no.
I don't know that it
No,
would have mattered.
we don't-
Typically, though, if someone was doing their own training, they would submit it under their company name. I mean, there are other companies, large national companies, that submit classes with their name on it. And this, we don't know from this whether this is a side entity that these 3 guys have set up. I don't know that would have made a lot of difference. We did look at it in the same way. For the initial employee, we were still looking for something that was proctored, and if I believe that they said it was a proctored class, if I remember right. I guess that could have some bearing on it if the proctor's their own Please. Do we have any other information?
No, that's all. I think they're just bringing it to our attention.
What is Exhibit B? Is it related to this? Or?
No.
Okay.
I think it's just information. When we do approve these courses, we look at them, we're required to get certain information, who the instructors are, their resumes. I don't think we go in, and I know I don't go see who owns the company.
Right.
So I think it's just information that they wanted us to be aware of.
I don't believe there's any rule or anything that states someone would have to disclose that they were doing training for their own employees.
All right. I just wanted to make sure, since this
Else
went
have
from
any
the association, that I
concern
brought
about
it
that?
to your attention. Is there anything else that you felt like I needed to do on that? Yeah. All right. If it's all right, we'll just move right on to Exhibit B, but for Exhibit... What?
Item 11.
It's item 11 on your iPad. I will reach back out to the ESA and tell them that I did present that information to the board, and thank you very much. This is a sort of a written. This is from the Alarm Academy. You had asked some questions, and they have responded. How they were going to administer their exams. They wrote back and telling you there's 3 ways that they could do that. We'd like to hire a third party to administer the exam. Number 1. Number 2, we would video conference the student taking the exam. 3, we would proctor the exam in person. Is everybody to a number 11? I will reference back to the February 22nd email. It says, we're exploring the idea of proctoring the online exam through a video recording process using a smartphone, tablet, or computer camera, which would afford the instructor the ability to watch the test taking process. Would something like this be acceptable in lieu of making the test taker go to a physical test center? For your question, you had some questions, and that's what we presented to them, how they would be proctoring the exam, and these is one of the 3 ways.
And this is the same, this is the company that was referenced in the other. I mean, my only concern with knowing that other information is that if this is actually the company, and they're, because then they would be proctoring their own exam if they're saying they would proctor it in person. If the Alarm Academy is truly a separate entity, and it may be something that employees of the company just set up that isn't related, but that was our concern, but aside from knowing who they were, who owned the company, was that it be proctored properly.
Yes, sir, this refers back to the one you just heard previously.
I guess of these options, my concern would be the video conference, that they might need to present that more in depth. We had someone do that before. I don't think that was ESA. I think it was somebody else that was doing video proctoring, but it was quite in depth. It wasn't just a video camera. It wasn't just.
think what they're asking, if I'm looking at this, asking the board, which way would you prefer that they do this? They gave 3 options. Does the board have an opinion on that? Have we required all the exams to be proctored in the past?
I believe all of them that are for initial employee application are, not for CEUs. I don't think anything that's a course for initial application isn't proctored in some form.
Could be proctored in some form.
Well, I don't think we've approved anything that isn't proctored, that's an initial application.
I've just heard cases where the unproctored exams, where they're taking them online, are being cheated. And I think definitely for initial app and all, we need proctored exams. That's just my opinion.
And I believe that is what we sent back to them. So they're sending these 3 options. I take it that they would like to do them any one of those 3, but if they're asking for a suggestion, I'd pick number 1. They hire a third party to administer the exam, but I want to be fair. I don't want to require anything of them that we haven't required of anyone else.
Are we asking the question, do we trust them to proctor their own exam?
I think that's what we're asking on the third one there. And on the video conference, I think they should provide more evidence of how it would be proctored, because the one company that does do a video proctor now is rather in-depth. And they presented to us in person how they were doing that. Do you know of any other courses where a company is their own proctor?
Not that I'm
Or
aware
there
of.
are national companies
No.
that have their own?
I'd have to look. No, sir. I'm not right off the top of my head.
I don't know that I have a lot of heartburn with them proctoring their own if they had guidelines to go by.
Do we need to ask the gentleman to come in if you have specific questions? I don't exactly know where they're located at. It's a nowadays that doesn't mean he could be right here in Nashville. Just has a long distance time. Like for me to do.
Is there a standard for a third party to proctor? I know we use a particular company,
Yes, we use PSI.
but are there standards for that? I mean, if we said a third party, because this isn't specific, I mean, someone could set up a company that's the proctor company and.
Well, with
third party
PSI,
proctor.
they have a contract with the state.
Right.
And there are certain requirements that they have to meet. Yes, sir.
If we approved it as a third party, if we just said a third party needs to administer it, we don't really have any, we don't know of any standards that'll be met, because we're not saying it has to be PSI or some other company. I think we ought to hear from them how they plan to proctor it, whether it be a third party or in person or video, any of that. And we could probably do a teleconference or something, could we not? Or if it.
Yes, if they're not able to come in, we can certainly do that at the next meeting. We have the capability for them to call in. Yes, sir.
Isn't that their question as a whole, is how do y'all want us to proctor it? And we'll ask them how they intend to proctor it. I mean, isn't that kind of a back and forth?
is there a recognized, I mean, I know there's, in the alarm industry, there's UL and FM, that isn't a recognized third-party testing. I don't know if there's such a thing in the testing world, if there's a standards place for the PSI meets, or if there's competition for PSI. Or,
Yes, if the contracts go out, and then they have to bid on the contracts, yes, sir.
For as far as to meet a state standard, but I didn't know if there was like a general, like a third-party standard, some sort of an agency that tests, the testing agency.
Not that I'm-
The TNESA, don't they have a? Oh, I think they do.
I think
because-
they also proctor their own, but and granted, the ESA, it may be, so an instructor may also be instructing his own people, but it is a third party. There's oversight in that association is an entity that's a true third party that's oversight of all of it. They wouldn't allow someone to just blatantly give out tests that weren't being properly proctored. If they were asking us, I guess I would make a motion that we would accept their proctor through a third party to administer the exam. Explain to us what their other methods of proctoring would be.
So have you made a motion to recommend the third-party proctor?
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Cockcroft and a second by Mr. Harvey in response to this inquiry that to hire a third party to administer exams. And this request comes from Jason Lindquist at the Alarm Academy. All in favor, voice by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Ashley, does that take care of all that we need to address on that for now?
And then if they do have any other questions, whenever we contact them, I'll give them the option to come to the meeting, explain it, or if they're out of state, we'll let them do a call in if that's
Yeah,
the way I look at it.
if they do, you may want to go ahead and put them on notice to be available
Yeah.
on that day in June when the alarm board meeting is, to resolve it then or whatever. Else?
Oh, ma'am, I don't have any unfinished business. Either.
Okay. Anything from the board?
Did we ever get a response from the city of Memphis about, did we send a letter, I believe, about the false alarm fines?
Yes, that letter is still being reviewed by the administration. We want to get an actual person rather than have someone to contact should we get any additional complaint, because I know this came from a news article. So we're just trying to make sure we have the correct people for contacting purposes.
Okay. Thank you to everybody for being here today. The meeting's adjourned.